you for your time on a Friday evening. I know this is probably family time, but I'm going to take maybe half an hour, 40 minutes of your time for this recording. Uh, to everyone who's going to view this video, Jatin is a fabulous product manager. He's started his career with SAP. I think he was there for about 5 years. I let him speak, but I'll just give a quick intro. He was my first product manager hire at Capital Float. Uh, you know, while I've moved on, he's grown leaps and bounds within Capital Float. Today heads the Capital Float product team. I think he's managing a team of close to 20 odd people. I'll let Jatin tell his story. I don't want to take away his limelight. But Jatin, maybe, a quick intro and then we can get started in terms of our conversation today. And the topic of our conversation today is going to be growth product management. Jatin will share his insights in terms of how he's enabled growth on various products, which I am also aware of at Capital Float. But his experience and his knowledge is the best that we can, hear him out on this recording.
Sure.
So Jatin, over to you.
Yeah. So thank you, Uttam, for all the nice words. I would like to start by telling a little bit about my product journey. So straight out of college, I joined SAP Labs. I was first a software developer. For 2 years, I was into the engineering team. But I think from day one at SAP, I just used to ask too many questions to the product team and to the engineering team. And I guess somewhere after 2 years, they started realizing that this guy is just asking too many questions. What all like at that time I used to ask used to get implemented as feature, or the feature used to get changed. In the third year of my career at SAP, the engineering manager back then said that we had something called a career development path. Like maybe the career development right path would be for you to fit into product. Back then, product managers used to be like 15, 20 years experience at SAP, and I was the youngest there.
Yeah.
Because I used to bring that, I think, and I was from engineering background, the rest of the team used to really like, because I used to think a lot and being empathetic towards the developers and think it their way.
Yeah.
And I think I was able to do good stuff, at least at SAP back then. I was there for, again, 2 more years as product manager. So I spent total 5 years there. And then I met Uttam. And I remember my interview and discussions, and Uttam asked me that pick an app of your choice and find flaws in it and then fix those flaws and get to me. And back then I mentioned that I really like Uber.
I don't remember this at all.
Still not. Yeah, now my answer is not the same. If somebody's going to ask me, Uber is probably somewhere down just because of operations issues. And I shared that what kind of stuff. And that's where I felt talking to Uttam, and Uttam spoke to me. And I'm talking, guys, 2015. And he spoke to me about digital loan agreements and machines by which all these things are done on paper and how we are able to give loans in 90 seconds. It was unimaginable back then. Like, I can't tell. I felt like Uttam is probably lying just to probably hire. But when I joined, I felt like he was working on all those stuff for real. And back then, the building blocks of fintech also did not exist.
Yeah.
And the decisions to build versus buy was very easy. Just build, because whatever was available was for enterprise grade software.
Yeah.
So a lot of cool stuff I built with Uttam at Capital Fund and learned a lot, and trying to do the same right now at Capital Fund.
So Jatin, I totally aware of your journey. Talk to me about products that you built at Capital Float. Like you said, your amazing quality as a PM is your curiosity, right? And your ability to go deep on any problem statement to get to the root of how to solve it. I think that's your strength, and I don't think that should ever go. And that's why anyone who gets mentored under you will understand how to build really good features too, right? I think learning has been both ways for me and for you. But I want people to understand your journey in terms of how has your thought process shaped up, right?
Yeah, sure. So, see, early on, as I mentioned, in the start of the career, because things did not exist, we had to build it. Now, the solutions used to be fairly obvious, right? So something which is not automate, we had to automate. It was just a matter of like rigor we had to put into it. And then we essentially kept building one after the other, right? A lot of internal solutions we built, a lot of external products we built.
Yeah.
just to give you an example, that the most recent product I've been working on is the buy now pay later product, and
Mhm.
we power entire Amazon Pay Later and work with large players such as
Yeah.
Make My Trip, Unacademy, and so on.
Yeah.
And working for them, we realize that a lot of stuff which we feel we are thinking is has become hygiene for the consumer, like the process, it has to be smooth onboarding journey and all that is hygiene.
Yeah.
Very recent, like I would say, like in last few years, my thought of how to start building a product has actually changed a lot. And I like to quote something which I learned from Shreyas Doshi, who is like the
Yeah.
guru in
Yeah.
the product world these days. And he
Totally
mentioned
agree.
something which is amazing. He said that this formula, by the way, I have for last few, like couple of years, it become like really important to me, is impact is equal to market into execution to the power strategy.
Yeah. Yeah.
So for a product manager, it is really important to know what is the market size.
Yeah.
How much ever amazing product you build, if there is no market, the end result is going to be zero because market was zero. Now
Yeah.
let's say you have an amazing market,
Yeah.
but you have zero execution skills,
Mm.
right? And you were not able to execute it right. Again, it will be
Yeah.
zero into market size, so it is end result is going to be zero.
Yeah.
And if you have great execution and market, but not the right strategy, you're
Yeah.
gonna build like a zombie product or a zombie company, but it is not gonna give you exponential returns until you apply it to the power like strategy, right? So what we
Super, super example. I think you should write an article on this.
yeah,
Elaborate a little bit more on Shreyas Doshi's formula.
yeah, and he's amazing. Every single
Yeah.
thing. So this is something which has helped me so much from time to time. That first is that define what you are doing, why you are doing, spend a lot of time on it.
Yeah.
It's okay.
Yeah.
And it starts to happen when you join early in a product team. It's just like you feel like this has to be done and you start becoming anxious about releasing stuff.
Yeah.
But if you spend a lot of time in why, it's okay. Nobody dies. We have seen a lot of
Yeah.
times that the product, because there's no point launching a product where we don't know what is going to happen eventually to it. So if you spend a
Mm.
lot of time, I think you're on the right track.
I agree. I think you already gave me a segue into the focus of today's discussion in terms of growth PM. I know you've been a technical PM, you've been a B2B PM, you've also been a growth PM. Uh, how do you want to educate folks out there in terms of the key differentiated qualities in each of these journey, or what would you advise people to get into in terms of their career path? Do you think everyone should start as a technical PM and then grow up, or what's your view? How do you typically look for PMs?
So my thinking on this is that we have folks. It's a common notion that people who are from tech background, they end up being a great product managers.
Yeah.
Uh, I kind of agree and disagree, because I think more than the tech background is the curiosity to learn. There are product managers in our team who are from Delhi University colleges, who have never done tech in their lives, and they
Mm.
are doing amazing because they are curious. And then there are folks from engineering background, but they are not curious and like on the other side, and they don't end up being.
Yeah.
But not having curiosity to learn technology deep, at least for me, does not work. So you need to be like, you think I want to stay away from tech. Oh, that's tech. Now engineering team is going to look at it. Is for me at least, or the product managers I've seen, it doesn't work. So that
Sure.
curiosity should essentially always be there.
Yeah.
What I feel the difference is between a back-end or technical or B2B product, or for building for internal users versus building externally, growth and so on.
Yeah.
In the growth side, a lot of time has to be spent on desirability, that
Yeah.
what the end user desire. And on the backend side, I feel a lot of people spend on the feasibility. So
Yeah.
a technical product manager, if they exactly understand what is feasible, how is it feasible, and they are able to think like engineering manager, is better. But a growth PM, if they start thinking of feasibility, I think their imagination limits.
Yeah.
When I guess, I suggest that all the growth PMs out there, if they're thinking, they should first think what do the PM
Mm.
desire,
Yeah.
assuming what does the end consumer desire, and first define that scope, which could
Yeah.
be as big as possible. Find out that the really large market, think of a great product, if and then cut down when we are fixing for feasibility.
Yeah.
Unlike on the other side, think of feasibility, that is a feasible or not feasible when you're doing
Mm. Mm.
the back end stuff, and
Yeah.
then essentially think of uh, other stuff. Also, on the growth PM side, I feel PM is a mix of business and product,
Yeah.
right? So I keep telling this in my team that product manager wear multiple hats, right? So
That's yeah.
when you're 0 to 1, you're a product manager. When the product release, you're essentially a program manager. Sometimes you're also a technical manager.
Yeah.
All that is fine. It's just that you have to go through that entire cycle, and you have to know
Yeah.
what frame of mind or what hat are you wearing then,
True.
right?
True.
So on that, I would like to add again, Shreyas Doshi. I would like to quote,
Mhm.
and I've been saying. He said a lot of time when two people get into a conversation, they get into an argument
Yeah.
because one person is wearing a hat of like a growth. I'm not like exactly quoting him, but I'm
Sure.
just the essence of it that
Makes sense. Yeah.
that that I am sitting there wearing a hat of a growth person, thinking and not thinking of how at all. I'm
Mm.
just thinking of why question, and you are the other person who is thinking of like how is it gonna be implemented, and we get into a clash because the way we are thinking of a certain problem is altogether different. While I'm thinking big stuff in my mind, but you are thinking of how is it going to be implemented, we are always going to enter into a clash.
Mm.
If we explicitly mention that what position are we coming from, that
Yeah.
we are getting into this growth phase, we have to grow our user base, we have to get
Yeah.
this much revenue and so on, and
Mm.
that's why let's ideate together. If we define that, I think the conversation goes a lot better.
Yeah. Actually, you know, now brought about a very interesting question for me now. I know Capital Float over the years has been like a superb leader in terms of innovation, in terms of products that they want to take to market. And you've been part of that journey, and it was very exciting to build 0 to 1 products at Capital Float, right? But you've not just done 0 to 1 products, but you've done X to 10X also, right? Now, specifically in terms of growth on, let's say, an Amazon or your consumer vertical, how have you thought about frameworks? How have you thought about, enabling that X to 10X or, 10X to even 100X? I don't know what the numbers are, but, you've done it. So how do you guide your team? How do you think about frameworks? How do you look at growth for a particular product?
Right. So, in terms of growth, let's first cover quickly 0 to 1 essentially.
Mm.
So 0 to 1 is when we are defining the essentially like the problem statement,
Yeah.
and this is oversaid. This is too like a cliche thing in that product community, that finding the product market fit.
Flip.
But I
Yeah.
can't emphasize more, there is no shying away from finding that the product market fit is there. There are multiple frameworks available for you to figure out the product market fit. Like if X
Yeah.
number, like your app uninstall and so on, people are using themselves, DAO, MAU,
Yeah.
time spent on an app.
Yeah.
So all that are early signal green shoots.
Yeah.
Once you start seeing green shoots, then one should get into this growth mindset of marketing, spending some marketing dollar, cashbacks, and so on. But if the product market fit, the real product is not there, how much ever you grow, it's gonna fail at some point in time.
Yeah.
Seen multiple companies in the recent past which got listed and so on, that they were like relying on only on growth, but the core
Growth.
market fit was essentially like kind of there, but it was essentially because of the cashback, not essentially because they really like the product.
Yeah.
So that is the case. And once you achieve that,
Hmm.
then Uttam, for me, I think what has been working so far is to measure stuff in cohorts.
Yeah.
Both of us have worked in lending for long, and we have been looking at cohorts from a risk perspective. That
Yeah.
individual cohorts, what are the risk cohorts going? But for a product manager to spend
Mm.
a lot of time of looking at every single cohort. So, for example, one cohort which we measure on a daily basis, like on a weekly basis, is the GMV retention. So, for example,
Sure.
if I acquired a customer in a certain month, how
Hmm.
much of my GMV I'm retaining from my existing customer? Now,
Fair
again,
enough.
lending and
Good.
buy now, pay later, a lot of risk and everything start going down if you have more repeat, right? So,
Yeah.
defining all these things upfront, that
Yeah.
I would want 30% of my revenue to come from new users, but 70% of
Mm.
my revenue to come from existing customers.
Yeah.
Then this framework starts to play out, that you start thinking in
Mm.
different framework, that what was their existing customer, what is your new customer, how to acquire new customer, how to get more disbursal from the existing customer. And when you start thinking about it, I think these
Mm.
cohort, it starts to happen.
Great. You already answered my next question, which was around growth metrics, but I think I'll skip that question now. I already got my answer there.
So I think one growth thing is like the retention curves and stuff like that, right? That
Yeah.
the number of people who install and uninstall and
Yeah.
so on, that where do you like define. I think another point I want to say is not related to this, is that um, again, data thing is also like slightly overdone, overused, that the data driven
Mhm.
mindset and all that. What ends up happening, and something which we have done at Capital Float, is, it's an unpopular opinion, but what we have done is this, that there is a dedicated product analyst and then there are dedicated product managers. What we used
Mhm.
to do back in the day is that the product manager was supposed to pull the data and do it. I'm not saying that they should not know SQL, they should not
Yeah.
know how to fetch data and all, but it's just that I feel when the product manager, who is supposed to deliver, who is supposed to measure stuff and also supposed to pull out data and create dashboard, it's just that that feasibility things start coming to their mind and start, they end up, they start measuring less stuff.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
easy to ask a question and then get that stuff out because you get yourself out from the complexity of data warehouses, joins, and so on.
Correct.
And the true talent in a product manager is to start asking the right question, right? So if you
Yeah.
know that, hey, can you fetch me this data point, and see, it is going to start giving you all growth signals, all
Yeah.
product market fit
I
signals.
think it's very essential this point on hiring right and structuring your org correctly so that it enables the right growth for the organization, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Uh, you cut corners there, it will cut corners on your product.
correct. I 100% agree.
Yeah. Unfortunately, I think a lot of companies do that, and it's good that you're actually thinking about structure of your team, what role each one plays within the team to ensure that each one delivers the value outcome that you're looking for, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Uh, my next question is around, you know, uh, I go down this path on psychology, is an emotional connect. Any product, right? You're dealing with people at the end of the day. And how do you think about when you build products connecting with uh, the psyche of the end customer and to ensure that there is some bit of virality and stickiness to the product that you build, right? Have you thought about frameworks around there, or have you thought about how you approach problem statements there, or how do you solve for network effects, or you know at the end of the day, growth is all about network effects, and you.
Yeah, yeah. So I was at a session yesterday,
Mhm.
in Tanagar, hosted by Stellaris, and then Gupta from Jupiter was talking, and he was asked a very similar question.
Mhm.
He said that, what is the problem statement you're trying to solve while doing neobanks and so on? He said, I spoke to 4,000 people about the problem statement and did not come up, and honestly speaking here, that I couldn't come up with a great like
Mhm.
problem statement, uh, right? So I further dig deep and all that.
Mhm.
And one framework I started follows, I started asking those typical questions like Ola versus Uber, Zomato versus Swiggy,
Mhm.
kind of stuff, right? That Amazon versus Flipkart kind of stuff. And they said there was a clear polarized answer that one-sided people started to buy. When I asked HDFC versus ICICI, people were like that it doesn't matter, yeah, it got created first and then I just stick to
Mhm.
my product.
Yeah.
Then he said that maybe this is where something lies, right? Why every single app has been able to create that this versus that, but for bank,
Mhm.
people don't care which bank they have, they just have that same bank. If you ask them, they'll say, I'm not happy with the bank, but they still stick with the bank. It's like, what an amazing problem, amazing place to be, that people are not happy with the product, but they don't feel like changing the product, right?
Yeah.
And that's where he said that it started to feel like is a problem, is a place for me to work on.
Sure.
And essentially, he kept working on small things. So I
Mhm.
also feel here that at every single step, we don't
Mhm.
have to lie to ourselves, and we have to think of keeping customer at the center.
Yeah.
Also, like how I've read a lot of tweets from Harish from Cred, who also says that you have to keep
Mhm.
the design, the aesthetics, and everything in mind, and
Mhm.
sometimes think of creating that this is what I want, which you feel that the customer is gonna like.
Yeah.
Not necessarily always asking what like customer, like how Steve Jobs and Henry Ford and all that folks have
Yeah.
also said. It has to be a balance. That I feel it has to be a balance, that
Mhm.
we somehow figured out that this is what exactly customer wanted, and this is what
Mhm.
I feel is gonna be something really cool, and constantly keep delivering, constantly
Yeah.
keep engaging with your customer. I
Yeah.
think I'm a true believer of continuous improvement and compounding effect, because it plays off like in the end that you're
Yeah.
constant improvement. And I think you have also taught us that keep delivering small stuff. Don't wait for that one big bang
Yeah.
large release, because you don't know, it may get failed miserably. So
Yeah.
just constantly keep improving. I think it started to
Nice.
be good.
Excellent. Uh, you know, Jatin, both of us work in a very regulated space, right? And when you try to look at growth and try to work with trying to build innovative products. How has regulation played out in your space when you try to be aggressive in terms of the experimentation that you want to do, but regulation sort of holds you back? How have you sort of managed this over the past few years?
So it's a great question, and I think it's a very controversial one also.
Unfortunately, a lot of other industries don't have this, and
Yeah, yeah.
people don't understand this on the fintech lending side, that it's so regulated that you can't really push the bar on
Yeah.
various fronts.
So then for me, what I feel is when you're very early in your career, right, you'll start to get too frustrated because this great idea comes to your mind and
Mm,
you'll be like, okay, this regulator does not allow me to do it this way. And then you're like, why the hell? And the regulator don't understand. And as you mature,
yeah,
I think into the process, and if you have been there 2, 3 times, you start to realize that regulators are also not doing it just for fun.
yeah,
And you start thinking and you start becoming too empathetic towards them also, that it is done from a certain consumer mind, not your only your business, right?
yeah,
And when the stance which a company creates, I think in the long run pays off, right? That if
yeah,
a company creates this stance, boss, we are 100% regulated. We will
mm,
never take a shortcut in
yeah,
an experiment or in a great product.
mm,
Probably initially for certain early in the career, it feels frustrating, but in the long term career, I feel it just completely pays off. That becomes your mode. So, for example, you would have seen this fad in last 5 years in Bangalore hiring scene, right? That
yeah,
people are asking for astronomical salaries, right? Which
salary,
made no sense.
yeah,
All of a sudden, after this Fed changing interest rate and
yeah,
all that, when funding has started to dry up and so
yeah,
on, I see a lot of people like young folk coming in. Is your company profitable? What about profitability? What is the path to
yeah,
profitability? I think this is something which 5 years back nobody was asking for when hiring, right?
yeah,
I think same stuff has started to happen with regulation. So, for example, we have won
mm,
great partnerships because they felt like at Capital Fort, it is 100% regulated. They are not taking shortcuts.
yeah,
It feels sometimes that it is like not, yeah, why, but at least early. But now we are. I feel great about it, honestly, that we are in
nice,
a regulated space, and that's a mode. Not anybody can just wake up and stand up and enter into the
yeah,
business
correct.
because all the hard effort, effort which you have put over the period of time,
Mm,
actually pays off, right? So
yeah,
I feel it's great to be in a regulated space.
great, great. So, Jatin, and the interest of time also, I know that you've started to manage a team. You're the chief product officer for Capital Float. You have about 20 odd people who report into you. What's your philosophy to the team? How do you what sort of qualities do you look for in building your team, right? And I just want to understand, why should somebody join you? Like, make your pitch. If people out there want to join Capital Float, I would definitely vouch for you, but I want them to hear it from you.
I think I'll start with what kind of culture we have set. So,
Mm,
like, not to just to flatter you, but honestly, we learned a lot. I think every single thing what you did to us when we joined Capital Fort is what I'm trying to do to my level best.
yeah,
Small gestures which you used to do. For example, I would like to tell the team that you used to do reviews in these cult places like Koshis and Ticos and so on in Bangalore
yeah,
was very delightful, right? Because I never expected like, hey, let's meet at breakfast at 7 a.m. and let's do your review there. And you used to come prepared.
yeah,
I have met really in my life people where the manager comes prepared and used to come prepared with like these are the positives, these are probably the areas of improvement, and you have to work upon like written. I think it feels that the manager is invested in your career and is thinking
yeah,
about you. It's not that you just came up all of a sudden and started speaking random stuff, right? That generic stuff. You were like thorough, and this is what I've been trying to do. One framework which I have followed, which I learned from the Still Waters at an advanced leadership program, which
mhm,
again you uh,
yeah,
sent me to, is this: you have to treat every single individual as a different person. So you have to play
yeah,
different roles, and if you create this grid of skill and will,
yeah,
there is a person who is highly skillful and highly like super like has great will, and then low will and low skill, right, on
yeah,
different quadrants. You have to act differently for different people. For example, a high skill high will person, you have to
yeah,
act like a coach. And this is what Girish from Stillwater told me, that the coach does not do essentially anything.
mm,
Mostly the coach is not as good as the player, right? For example, the coach for Sachin Tendulkar back in the day was
yeah,
not playing cricket as good as Sachin, right?
yeah,
They essentially act like a camera, that they recorded everything and they showed it to the player that, hey, this is how
mm,
you play. The player themselves know how to improve, right?
yeah,
So you sometimes there is a person who is highly who has a great will but is not skilled. We have to play a role of a teacher, that we have to sit,
Yeah.
handhold them, work with them together, right?
Hmm.
um, in low will, high skill, we have to act like a friend,
Sure.
mentor. That what are the reasons? Go deep into it. That how I think once you start spending a lot of time being conscious about it, creating an exciting and at a conducive environment,
Yeah.
I think it pays off. And I think I've been fortunate that we have a amazing team at Capital Float, and I would love
Yeah.
all the people who listen see this video to come down to our office, meet the team,
Yeah.
get into network. They are like kick as amazing people. My pitch to you is that if you join Capital Float, you're gonna get to work with the best people out there.
Even
In
I'll vouch for that. Like the product culture at Capital Float was something else. Like, and I don't take away anything at all. Like, I think for 5 years that I've been there, I know at least with all your hearsay and still the connects that I have, I know how it's sort of shaped up still at Capital Float.
and
So
credit goes to you to set it up.
no, it's not my credit. It's continuity in terms of people who came on board, right? And having the right people is very essential for that continuity in culture also. But yeah, amazing place for amazing fintech company for sure, for building products. And I think any product manager who joins there will, I don't think they will take steps back, and they will not have a slow career growth. That's the way I look at it.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's new barriers to keep pushing for. Uh, Jatin, I know you read a lot. Uh, any books, podcasts that you would recommend people to listen in, learn about growth PM, or it could be generic PM, maybe it could be metrics, anything that you would want to suggest?
So yeah, so I think my travel time to office has become 1 hour. I've moved to Whitefield
Oh, no.
because of like like some decisions I took during COVID times, which I can't go back on. Because of that, I've started listening to podcasts a lot.
Hmm.
And I think this is a very famous one. One is the Masters of Scale by Reed Hastings is the best in my opinion. Specifically, an episode from Brian Chesky who talks about 10x experience from
Hmm.
Airbnb is amazing, is phenomenal.
Okay.
And another one which I saw Gopi was on your side and Gopi shared me was from Greg Eisenberg talking
Yeah.
about community building. It's
Yeah.
phenomenal.
Yeah.
Uh, in terms of books, again, I would not be able to pull out the hidden gems, but these are probably the most popular ones. And folks who listen to your content, I think may have already heard of. Traction is an amazing book. And by the
Yeah.
way, we started creating a culture that every time a new person who joins, the manager gives that person a book,
Oh, nice.
very
Amazing.
deep, very deeply thought about that person. They talk to like 10 days, figure out how the person is, where the company is going, what kind of project the person is going to, the product manager is going to be working on. And after
Yeah.
all the deep thought, picks a book after
Mm.
like going for good read reviews and all that, and give that book. And then that sort of a book club is getting created. So a lot of amazing books which
Oh,
are
very
coming, like
nice.
Radical Candor, Rework,
Nice.
Traction, are books which are good to great and so on, which have been
Amazing.
suggested.
Amazing. Anything that you want to talk about your passions beyond work? I know you're extremely passionate about capital float, you're passionate about lending, you're passionate about product management. I'm aware of all this, but to the audience, what is Jatin passionate about beyond all this?
Honestly, my passions over a period of time has changed. My
Yeah.
now my recent most passion is to talk about outside work to my team. There are like young folks who talk to like who have so much of knowledge on different topics. Like there is never, I was just telling you before this we started recording the call,
Mm.
right? There's never a dull moment at office. Like I was just talking to I just saw somebody wearing like amazing sneakers. I was like, nice
Mm.
sneakers. He's like, hey, you know what? I trade sneakers. And he started talking to me about StockX and like how that person trades sneakers. I was like,
Wow.
wow, so
Interesting.
there's so much of interesting. Like you get into another table, they suddenly become like on
Mm.
they get into crypto. And Nupur from our office has just moved to Colombia, and I was
Yeah.
talking to her, like so many, like she's into like mining and all this stuff. She has got into
Nice.
folks like in my team suggest me about like going to Chaudia Memorial to watch Bharatnatyam show. So there is so much of very stuff. Some people
Yeah.
talk about like crazy food and so on. So there is so much interesting topic we discuss over lunch. We have kept this 1 to 2 no meeting hour.
Mm. Yeah.
Not necessarily lunch. It's not that we want to be like a typical bank where the lunch hour, but like
Mm.
free mind, like free space where we can talk about other stuff outside of work
Yeah.
also and related to work. I think so. So
Nice.
right now, my favorite thing has become to talk to interesting people and keep getting more and more insights. Something
Very
which I
nice.
know about.
Yeah. Yeah. Uh, want to understand what if you had to leave a legacy behind it, people had to remember you for something. What would that be? What would you want people to remember you for?
I think I truly believe this one value of capital float which he had was
Mm.
which
Had or still there?
so, yeah, the value is essentially something, a value which you have is called design with rigor.
Mm.
I feel that if I leave that any single thing which we work on, there has to be a crazy level of rigor behind it, thought behind it, deep thought behind it, and think of it that you it's you are the founder of that company and that feature
Yeah.
and the product, and then go as deep as possible. I think if you are able to set that culture, design
Mm.
reverse it from all aspects, right? Business
Yeah.
aspect, consumer aspect, UX, everything I'm talking about.
Sure.
If I'm able to establish that culture which people remember me that, hey, you know what, we did not think very deep into this,
Mhm.
I would have probably failed. But if we go through, I think I would feel that I've been able to leave a great
So
legacy.
the legacy that you want to leave behind is go deep and have better design thing you had. Think design and everything.
Design with rigor is my thing.
Yeah.
Like when you are designing something, building something, just
Yeah.
have that rigor. There's no like lazy shortcuts and all that.
Got it. I'll come to a personal question now. I know you're recent, a few years back now that you don't became a father. How's fatherhood? How's fatherhood treating you during COVID? I know you used to work till like 3, 4 in the morning. Now, how is that behavior change with the child?
I, all that has changed. My son has started going to school, so I read something today that, by the way, I was not never a
Mm.
early morning person, which Uttam you have always been.
Yeah.
But because I have to drop him to bus, I feel that big change has happened in my life. Which for initial few days I was just crying. Why do I have to wake at like 5 and 6?
Yeah.
But all of a sudden, started learning that I started waking up at 6. I have so much more time. I never read newspaper and so on, and I'm
Yeah.
able to do so many things, finish up emails and all that before going to office. And when I reach office, I feel I'm so much more prepped. It's not
Yeah.
that I'm just running behind my calendar.
Yeah.
It feels a lot more exciting. So I think that is something, a byproduct which I just recently got, but it is a hectic thing.
I can imagine.
Hectic and
One quote that you'd want to leave all of us with that you think all of us should try and remember this.
I think I would not quote something, but I would say that everybody on this call to go and search for something called Man in the Arena. At
Mhm.
Capital Thought, we share many a time, but I'll just, 1 second, I'll just read out.
Sure.
Uh,
This is going to be news for me also. Let me look it up later.
yeah, so uh, it was by Mr. Roosevelt. Just 1 second. Yeah, so if you have some time, I can just quickly read out. So the man in the arena is a quote by Theodore Roosevelt, and
Mhm.
it goes like this: It is not the critic who counts, not the man who points out how the strong man stumbles, or
Mhm.
where the doer of the deeds could have done them better. The
Yeah.
credit belongs to the man who is actually in the arena, whose face is marred by dust and sweat and blood, who strives valiantly, who errs, who comes short again and again, because there is no effort without error and shortcoming, but who does actually strive to do the deeds, who knows great enthusiasms, the great devotions, who spends himself in the worthy cause, who at best knows in the end the triumph of high achievement, and who at worst, if he fails, at least fails while daring greatly. So that is his place, shall never be uh, with those cold and timid souls who neither know victory nor defeat.
Interesting. Need to read this again and absorb it.
Yeah, it's amazing. I think you can share a link of this.
Great, great. I will do that. Jatin, thank you so much for your time. I won't hold you back. It's been amazing to, reconnect with you. I wish you all the best. I know you'll build more and more impactful products. I have no doubt in my mind about this. Looking forward to more launches in the future, more maybe articles coming out from you, more thoughts that you can share with us more often. I think that'd be really, really helpful for the entire product community. But thank you once again.
Yeah, thank you, Uttam, and great work. I think I've been watching all the videos of the other PMs you have been, and it's great stuff.
Thank you. Thank you
Bye.
so much.
Thank you.